The brutal execution of Cleopatra. The story of the brutal execution of Cleopatra, one of the most well-known women in history, still captivates people today. How did this ancient Egyptian royalty meet her end? Was it due to her daring to cross someone even more powerful than herself? The mystery surrounding her death continues to intrigue us to this day, leaving many to ponder her fate. The story of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, is filled with intrigue, ambition, and forbidden love. Born in 69 BC in the vibrant city of Alexandria, she was the daughter of Ptolemy, the allied king of Egypt, and his wife Cleopatra V, or Cleopatra VI, who may have been his sister or cousin. Cleopatra came from the Macedonian dynasty that had ruled Egypt since the death of the great Alexander in 323 BC. Despite her Greek ancestry, she embraced her Egyptian roots and even believed herself to be the reincarnation of the goddess Isis. Growing up in the opulent royal palace of Alexandria, Cleopatra received a top-notch education from tutors and scholars. She studied a wide range of subjects including literature, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and music. But her thirst for knowledge knew no bounds, and she was also learned in several languages, including Greek, Latin, Egyptian, Hebrew, Arabic, Ethiopian, Median, and Parthian. Cleopatra was vibrant, intelligent, and ambitious, yearning to become a great ruler like her idol, Alexander the Great. Her father, Ptolemy IV, was a weak and unpopular king who relied on Roman support to maintain his power. However, in 58 BC, a rebellion led by his own daughter, Berenice IV, and his wife Cleopatra VI, forced him to flee to Rome. Cleopatra accompanied her father to the city, where they found refuge at the villa of Pompey the Great, a formidable Roman general and politician who was also their ally. The 11-year-old Cleopatra was enchanted by the splendors of Rome, which left an indelible impression on her. In 51 BC, when Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father passed away. The throne was then passed down to her and her younger brother Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old at the time. This practice of sibling marriage was common among the Ptolemies to maintain the purity of their bloodline and avoid rival claims to the throne. However, Cleopatra had no intention of sharing her power with her inexperienced brother or his advisors, led by a eunuch named Pothinus. She desired to rule Egypt independently and make it a strong kingdom capable of resisting Roman dominance. Her ambitions faced immediate opposition from her brother and his faction, who sought to overthrow her and make Ptolemy XIII the sole ruler of Egypt. They even spread rumors accusing her of plotting with Rome against the interest of Egypt. In 48 BC, Cleopatra was forced to flee Alexandria and seek refuge in Syria with her sister, Arsinoe IV. There she built an army of mercenaries and allies to fight for her rightful place on the throne. Meanwhile, the renowned Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in pursuit of Pompey, his rival in the Roman Civil War. Pompey had been defeated by Caesar and sought sanctuary in Egypt. Upon realizing that Pompey had been killed by Ptolemy XIII's forces in a gesture of goodwill to Caesar, the Roman general was outraged. He decided to intervene in the Egyptian conflict and summoned both Cleopatra and Ptolemy to meet him in Alexandria to settle their dispute peacefully. Cleopatra saw this as her best chance to regain her throne and win Caesar's favor. She felt a powerful attraction towards him and was determined to capture his heart. Cleopatra devised a daring plan to enter Alexandria secretly, disguised as a servant and hidden inside a rolled-up carpet carried by one of her loyal followers. When the carpet was unrolled in front of Caesar's room, she emerged, stunning him with her beauty, intelligence, and wit. Caesar was captivated by Cleopatra's charm and decided to support her claim to the throne. As their love blossomed, he also became her lover, leading to the birth of a son they named Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. However, their path to power was not easy. Ptolemy XIII and his army besieged them in the palace for several months, resisting their rule. The stakes were high as Cleopatra and Caesar faced not only their domestic enemies, but also the cunning and conniving Arsinoe and her Roman ally, the enigmatic Lucius Cassius Longinus. In the midst of this intricate power play, Cleopatra and Caesar emerged victorious, solidifying their reign under a shroud of suspicion. With Egypt firmly in their grip, Cleopatra ascended once again as queen, sealing her position by marrying her own brother Ptolemy XIV, replacing the deceased 13th ruler. However, her alliance with Caesar went beyond the political realm as she became his mistress, basking in opulence within Rome's lavish villa along the Tiber River. Cleopatra's status continued to rise as Caesar declared her his esteemed consort and bestowed upon her the prestigious title of Queen of Kings. Their union bore fruit in the form of Caesarion, Cleopatra's offspring, whom she proudly presented as Caesar's legitimate son and rightful heir. But there remains a lingering question that shrouds Cleopatra's final fate. How did this tempestuous reign conclude for Egypt's most alluring ruler? There is a theory that Cleopatra died from the venomous bite of an asp, a type of snake. This theory is rooted in historical texts and has been portrayed in art, literature, and popular culture for centuries. However, there are also other theories that suggest Cleopatra may have been murdered, possibly by Octavian, who later became the Emperor Augustus. The theory that Cleopatra died from an asp bite comes from ancient Roman historians, primarily Plutarch and Dio Cassius, who wrote about a century after Cleopatra's death. According to Plutarch, Cleopatra may have had the snake smuggled to her in a basket of figs. Her maids discovered her dead body and observed bite marks on her arm. The asp, a symbol of divine royalty in ancient Egypt, was associated with the gods and pharaohs. Choosing death by asp bite could have been seen as a final assertion of her divine status as pharaoh and her connection to the ancient lineage of Egyptian rulers. However, there are practical considerations that challenge the asp theory. Asps, or Egyptian cobras, are relatively large snakes, making it difficult to conceal them in a small basket, as some accounts suggest. Additionally, the venom of an asp does not cause immediate death, but can lead to hours of painful symptoms before the person passes away. Despite the intrigue surrounding Cleopatra's death, there is a lack of concrete archaeological evidence to confirm how she died. Her tomb has never been definitively located, and without her remains, it's challenging to determine the cause of her death. Some recent archaeological expeditions claim to be close to discovering her final resting place, but until her tomb and remains are found and examined, the mystery will continue. Another theory suggests that Cleopatra was murdered by Octavian, who had a strong motive to eliminate her. Octavian wanted to secure his victory over Mark Antony, Cleopatra's lover and ally, who had taken his own life after losing the Battle of Actium. Octavian also wanted to prevent Cleopatra from escaping or negotiating with his enemies. He wanted to capture her alive and parade her in his triumphal procession in Rome, humiliating her before the Roman people. Octavian also wanted to claim Cleopatra's son with Julius Caesar, Caesarion, as his own heir and eliminate any potential rivals for the succession. According to this theory, Octavian sent a messenger to Cleopatra with false information that Antony was still alive and wanted to see her. That lured her out of her mausoleum and into Octavian's custody. He then had her killed, possibly by poisoning or strangling, and fabricated the story of her death from an asp bite. Octavian's ally, Olivia Drusilla, who later became his wife and the mother of his successor Tiberius, may have provided access to poisons and assassins. This theory is supported by Octavian's history of eliminating political opponents and his reputation for deceit and manipulation. However, it lacks direct evidence or eyewitness testimony and contradicts Octavian's own account of Cleopatra's death. During Cleopatra's reign, the political landscape was volatile and treacherous, with alliances and betrayals being the norm. Her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were not only romantic entanglements, but also shrewd strategic moves. However, everything changed after Antony's death and the rise of Octavian. Cleopatra found herself in a precarious position as Octavian sought to absorb Egypt into the Roman Empire and perceived her as a threat to his ambitions. With the impending Roman invasion and the potential consequences of being associated with the doomed queen, Cleopatra's servants, fueled by self-preservation, may have contemplated betraying her loyalty. A particularly suspicious aspect of Cleopatra's death is the story of the asp bite. Although it is a dramatic narrative, historians and scholars have cast doubt on its credibility. The venom of an asp could have caused a slow and excruciating demise, contradicting the accounts describing Cleopatra's peaceful passing. Moreover, the logistics of smuggling a venomous snake into her chambers without raising suspicion seem implausible. Conversely, poisoning administered by a trusted servant would have been a discreet and efficient method of assassination. Ancient sources that discuss Cleopatra's death offer inconsistent details and explanations, leaving room for alternative theories. This lack of consensus among historians further strengthens the possibility of her servants playing a role in her assassination. Notably, Cleopatra's death conveniently paved the way for Octavian's annexation of Egypt, removing any significant resistance. If her servants were in communication with Octavian's agents, bribed or coerced by them, they could have been instrumental in ensuring the queen's demise. The propaganda, propagated by Octavian, portraying Cleopatra as a decadent and manipulative Eastern queen, suggests that he had much to gain from her demise. Additionally, the hurried burial of Cleopatra and Mark Antony raises suspicions about a possible attempt to conceal the true nature of their deaths. Octavian permitted their burial together in a golden tomb, but the specifics of its location remain unknown, and no remains have been definitively identified as theirs. The fate of Cleopatra's servants after her death also adds intrigue to the narrative. While many of her associates and allies suffered persecution or execution by Octavian, some were spared and even integrated into the Roman administration. This raises the question of whether their loyalty to Rome was viewed as a reward or if it signified a payoff for their role in Cleopatra's assassination. Cleopatra's interest in toxicology, as well as her access to a wide range of toxic substances, strengthens the plausibility of the theory of consuming a lethal drug cocktail, ensuring a quick and painless death. Historical records allude to her experimentation on condemned prisoners, studying the effects of various poisons. Additionally, depictions of Cleopatra in ancient art and coins often feature her wearing a vial or container around her neck, suggesting the possible presence of a potent poison that she ingested. The logistical challenges of procuring a venomous snake in Alexandria, the bustling urban center where Cleopatra resided, cast doubt on the snakebite theory. It seems less reliable to rely on being bitten on a snake of uncertain venom dosage than ingesting a known quantity of a lethal substance. Archaeological discoveries in and around Alexandria have also unearthed remnants of plants and herbs with known toxic properties such as hemlock, belladonna, and aconite. The availability of such substances in ancient Egypt suggests that Cleopatra had access to a plethora of lethal options. Finally, the political climate at the time of Cleopatra's death adds another layer of suspicion. Facing defeat and the imminent threat of Roman annexation, Cleopatra must have considered the consequences of becoming a captive paraded through Rome. For a proud queen like her, such a fate would have been worse than death. In this context, it becomes plausible that she chose a method of dying that was quick, certain, and dignified, rather than the unpredictability of a snakebite. Modern toxicological analysis suggests that a combination of drugs, rather than a single substance, might have been employed. A concoction of opium, hemlock, and aconite, for instance, could produce symptoms consistent with the historical accounts of Cleopatra's demise. Opium induces a tranquil and euphoric state, hemlock induces paralysis, and aconite stops the heart. Such a combination would ensure a swift and painless death, aligning with the circumstances surrounding the enigmatic end of Cleopatra's life. For now, we've come to an end to our video. Please show your support by hitting the like button and leaving a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any future updates.